Favorite hobby, watching YouTube videos about nothing important. Yes, we matched. Okay. For today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the newly released Qwen3 Flash coder, or the Qwen3 30B A3B Instruct coder model that just came out, and we're going to test it in an agentic coding scenario, making a simple web-based Tinder clone, which could hopefully perhaps be somewhat entertaining. Now, before we get into this, I do want to make note that it was my intention to do this test in RooCode with the Q8 quantization of this model that I had done a video on like 12 hours ago. However, it seems that the model in RooCode is not working properly, and I've seen reports of this, of other folks using other quants, that it doesn't seem to properly be handling tool calls. I did actually go ahead and check it with the official API, so I just hooked it up to the actual API for the model, and it was still having issues with those tool calls, so I'm not quite sure what that would mean or lead one to think, but I am happy to report that I do have it working here through the official API in the Qwen-CLI coding tool that was released alongside the larger of the Qwen3 coding family of models. So with this, we are basically going to go ahead and be using it this way. This will be a simple kind of agentic coding test, but this model did really excel in UI design, and it also seemed to have a little bit of a humorous side to it, so I figure this will be a worthwhile test to do at like 1:30 in the morning. Our prompt is really quite simple, where it is tasked to create a web-based Tinder clone. The web app must be aesthetically pleasing and have a simple UI where the user can see profiles of the different people that they get to swipe on. There will be two buttons, one for if you like the person and one for if you don't. And in addition to that, I did have Gemini 2.5 Pro generate 20 random images of people. So we have actually gone ahead and placed those already in the directory that this will be working in, so that we actually do have realistic looking profiles. In addition to that, we have just specified that each picture can only be shown once, so we don't recycle through profiles, as that will kind of knock the realism factor here. And in addition to this, because this model did seem to be somewhat kind of funny in some of the other testing I was doing, we are just telling it needs to generate the random profile information such as their name, age, job title, short bio, and favorite thing to do. In addition to that, there is going to be some random matching logic. So if you like someone and they like you back, you will match. And then we just kind of reiterate that this is supposed to be lighthearted, fun, and humorous. So with that, I am essentially just going to go ahead and copy paste this prompt that we just saw right there in Excalidraw into the Qwen-CLI tool. And basically it will go ahead and begin functioning here. Now, I will say this does go pretty quick, and something that I noticed that it's actually doing is it's checking to see if the image files are already in existence in the actual directory, which they are. So it will just use that pertinent information to actually go ahead and build around knowing that those images do actually exist. So I am going to just allow it to always make these changes. So that is just something cool you can do in like agentic coding, is if you have these types of assets that you already have pre-made and you wanted to implement them into your end result or design, you can just kind of go ahead and prompt it to use your existing assets, which is nice and kind of efficient, I suppose one could say. I think honestly, well, being that we are using the official API here, this is obviously running fairly quick to the point where it's already telling me to go ahead and test the HTTP server to see if everything's working. Now, I am going to click allow once here, but in my experience with this Qwen-CLI tool, when it does actually try to go ahead and start these kind of test servers to verify functionality, it generally doesn't work, or it just takes so long that I get impatient and I don't ever really find out if it would have worked. However, being that this is essentially akin to just opening the index.html file, I think I am probably going to manually stop it right here. And if it really did just do all of that coding and that like extremely fast amount of time, we may actually be like, all right, video's done. We vibe coded. Next. All right, let's go ahead and all right. Oh man, this is going to get me like, all right. All right. First and foremost, here's what we're going to do. We're going to zoom in a little. Actually, we can't, because then it will mess up the card style. Okay, so let's just take note of a few things. So first and foremost, we do have a kind of peach color scheme here, and then it has actually gone ahead and just named this Tinder clone, which is perhaps I would have appreciated a more unique name, but it did go ahead and at least properly outline information about these folks. Now, this has no ability to see the image that it's actually making the bio for, but I do find it interesting that our friend Alex here is listed as a couch potato champion, which one could perhaps say does seemingly suit the aesthetic qualities of this individual. So, all right, so currently accepting applications for anyone interested in being my +1 for life's most ridiculous moments. Favorite hobby, having deep conversations with my pet. All right, well, I think now, and again, the model generated every single thing we see right here, aside from the photos, which I gave it. It generated the name, the age, whatever you want to call this, and everything. I think for the time being, we may check the X button functionality first to see if we can just swipe left. Good. All right, so we have Samantha, a cat whisperer. I'm a certified expert. I have to say this really did a good job, and you saw this with me in real time here. It was like, bam, done. Obviously, it's a relatively simple task to give it. I was hoping to show some form of agentic coding, which RooCode would have very much helped because you can see the scripts being made and things like that, but that is perhaps besides the point. Certified expert in making friends with anyone who will listen to my stories about my pets. Favorite hobby, making up stories about my non-existent friends. I'm seeing a few red flags here, so we're going to go ahead and move on, okay? Here we have Carter, a professional snacker, currently accepting applications. Okay, so it's seemingly regurgitating, so that would be an improvement, is to make these a little more. Reading romance. All right, let's do a like. Unfortunately... So of the images that I prompted Gemini to make were perhaps a little more entertaining than others. So we have here Rowan, who is 22 years old, certified expert, okay. Favorite hobby, collecting vintage socks. I would say that could potentially check out based on this photo. So far, I have not received any matches. I do just want to make note of. Here we have Taylor. Passionate about helping people realize they're just as weird as I am. Learning to juggle or at least pretend. All right, I want to see if I get a match here. Okay, we have Kendall, a pet groomer. Love at first sight. Having deep conversations with my pet. I'm just, at this point, I want to see if I get a match. My humor is unapologetically terrible but endearing. I understand that. I empathize with that. Favorite hobby. Okay, so this one's the same as the other. Jamie matched with you. Okay, that's good. That is very good. I can think of a numerous amount of ways to take the logic following a match, but I probably would not have a future in making videos if I did that. So here we have Skylar, the cat whisperer. Baking cookies in the shape of animals. That's a little concerning. I think we're going to have to go ahead and... Okay, well, that's definitely an issue, is I pressed X and we still matched, which would definitely be quite a weird thing to happen in the actual Tinder application. Okay, here we have Avery. Oh, okay, so there we go. Now we have Finley, professional snacker. I'm looking for someone who can keep up with my absurd level of creativity. The struggle is real, I understand that. Practicing my dance moves. All right, all right, no matches. Peyton, a PhD in nope, you're gone. All right, anytime. Avery, 40, type of person who makes breakfast for my cat and then eats the leftovers. So you eat your own cat food. That is watching old movies and pretending to understand the plot. All right, so this is a huge red flag, but this is kind of endearing. This is like a coin flip here. I don't have a coin to flip. We'll see if there's a match there. Nope. Oh, wow. Okay. So here we have Taylor. Looking for someone to share. I want to reiterate here real quick. These are AI generated people. None of these images are of real people. So I want to just kind of get that out there again. Share my quest to become the world's greatest food critic, one snack at a time. I'm in. Yeah, we got a match. All right. Alex, professional napper. I enjoy long walks on the internet and conversations that go nowhere interesting. Watching reality TV shows. All right, so there's just 3 things here that I'm absolutely going to have to pass on. All right, we have Alex. I do believe we just did also see this tag in the previous one, but I don't remember. Share my passion for making people laugh and cry at the same time. I'm in. All right. Finley, a taco stand owner. Yep. Reese, social media influencer. Nope. Oh, okay. And again, this is probably getting, I don't quite know. It is, somewhat late and I've been up for a while. Couch potato champion. Again, socks. It really harped on like the sock mention. I've seen a few of them. Favorite hobby, watching YouTube videos about nothing important. Yes, we matched. Okay. Rowan. Taking selfies with strangers. Yeah, I'll pass on that. All right, let's just kind of speed through this. So we'll just do every other, like a yes and then a no. I do believe that's the same. Okay, so I had specifically instructed it to not use the same photos over again. All right. Well, I find this to be a rather satisfactory initial result. I do, however, find that it could have had a little more variety in the actual bios and perhaps make them funnier as well as not reusing images. So I'm just asking it to go ahead and make one simple change, which is implementing proper logic so that photos do not get shown more than once, and then going ahead and making all of their bios far more creative and unique, weird, etc. Oh, I forgot to mention that it also was having issues where even if I swiped no on someone, it would still show that we were a match. Yeah, that's all right. No, I don't need a README file. I don't. All right. Perfect. I've successfully created. Okay, well, I'm glad that you're very proud of yourself. That's good. All right, let's just go ahead and first just see if they have different. I'm looking for someone who can handle my collection of questionable life decisions. Nope. Okay. I won't go through all these again. Favorite hobby, TikTok videos. Nope. Okay, at first I thought that said urologist, and I was like, oh, okay. He's a doctor. No, unicornologist. All right. Well, I suppose that the entire process of it actually creating this went much faster than I had expected it to. And that, coupled with the fact that I spent a large amount of time trying to get this to work locally and in RooCode, I don't really quite know what to go from here. I think maybe that this will just be one of my shorter videos, and I suppose that's acceptable considering the time of day. All right, well, that is truthfully going to wrap up this rather quick, simple agentic coding test with the newly released Qwen3 Flash 30B A3B coding model. Again, I did only have luck with this working in the native Qwen coding CLI tool that is a fork of Gemini's CLI. And in addition to that, it's just working through the API right now, as just the local quant was not something I could really wrangle at this moment in time, but other folks had been reporting that in RooCode and things like that, it didn't work. So again, I want to reiterate that if someone is trying to get this working agentically in one of those frameworks and having trouble with it, you are very, very likely not the problem. So that is something that will get resolved sooner or later. Overall, it did a really good job of this Tinder clone. It was kind of in the first shot, meaning like I gave it the prompt and it actually generated something that was more or less completely functional. So there was some interesting choices here. And of course, being a coding model, we wouldn't expect it to be completely off the rails, but it did get close. Yeah. All right. Well, I just wanted to play with this a little more, as I know this is a model that a lot of folks are going to be able to run locally and therefore will likely be interested in seeing how it performs agentically. With that, that is going to wrap it up. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments, and thanks for watching. And then leave down below who you would swipe within the... No, I hate when